Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our panel on the untapped market of trucks. As we all know, a vast majority of auto tech startups focus their efforts on passenger vehicles, although trucks seem to be or to pose a more viable and immediate test case for auto tech. Persistent shortages of long-haul drivers, accelerating e-commerce demand, and logistics disruptions, especially in light of the COVID-19 crisis, have prompted more interest and investment in autonomous truck fleets. Some researchers suggest that the global market for self-driving truck technology will experience a growth of 10 to 20% in the coming years. To discuss this today with us are Dr. Fridtjof Stein, representing the OEMs. Fridtjof is from Daimler Trucks AG. Representing Tier 1s, we have Tansu Isik, who is Head of Strategic Business Development and Global Marketing at the tire division of Continental. And representing the technological companies or the startups is Ofer, CEO and founder at BrightWay Vision. My name is Yaniv Aronowich. I am an M&A partner at the law firm of Tadmor. We've been long-term partners of EcoMotion, and I'm very pleased to be here this evening. So let's start right away, and let's kick off with you, Fridtjof. Can you tell us a little bit, as representative of the OEMs, what is your view on promotion of next generation trucks? So what are the challenges that you need to meet? And has the recent COVID-19 crisis been an accelerator or perhaps put some delays in your plans in this respect?
So thanks a lot for inviting me to this panel. I'm really thrilled to be part of that. And yes, we at Daimler Trucks in the Daimler family, we are focusing on this autonomous technology. And we have a clear focus of driving autonomous trucks on interstate freeways in the United States. Why that? Because the business case is attractive. And furthermore, the market is ready. Why for the first deployment in the US? First, the legislation is pretty good regarding that compared to other countries. Then we have a special customer structure there, which fits in very well. We can deal with the traffic there, and the infrastructure is okay. And there's also a lack of infrastructure, which is a competition. For example, freight trains don't have a dense network, so everything is transported with trucks. Furthermore, there's an incredible driver shortage. We estimate 5 or 6 digit numbers in the next 5 to 10 years. And the driver also is a huge factor regarding all this truck freight hauling. So the freight transportation on the freeway, it's also attractive because it's kind of a medium complexity challenge. So you have the simple, low complexity topics such as gated areas where you can move freight. You have the very complex robo-taxi urban scenarios, and you have the freeways. So we have a clear plan, and we want to develop a network of logistic hubs in close proximity to these interstate freeways. And we want to drive with truck-trailer combinations, and the autonomous trucks will just be active on the interstates and between these hubs, and the distribution from the hub to the customer, that will be done by manual driving. And everything will be supervised by some kind of a vehicle control center. So this gives you a little bit the picture. Basically, our company was locked down due to that. So let me put it straight. It was just 1 month of delay for us because we are a high priority project in our company. So we are working back to work, basically.
Good. Thank you for that. Ofer, I believe that your company, BrightWay Vision, is in the process or is looking into a number of POCs with OEMs and Tier 1s across the globe. So within the confines of what you can actually tell us, what kind of feedback are you getting from these larger companies, the tier ones and the OEMs, and what types of partnerships are they looking for, and how are you helping them in getting them where they want to be with their technology?
As you heard just now, Dr. Stein explained the business model that only the last mile will be actually driven by human beings, and the rest will be autonomous driving in between cities. So this requirements for truck brings us to a slightly different requirement from what we are what we're used to from passenger cars. And I will share with you where we see the difference. So first of all, with trucks, they expect the truck to drive 24/7. The truck has to work at nighttime as well. It cannot park in harsh weather conditions. It has to keep on going. What we know now is that autonomous trucks will be driven at more than double the time that the regular truck will be driven. So the time and distances that trucks will do and drive will be much longer. And there is no fatigue issue because there's no driver. And the scenario is highway and rural roads. So we took that into account, and that brings some technical requirements, which is not like the ones that we are used to in robotaxi or other passenger car vehicles, whether it's ADAS or autonomous driving. For instance, I'll give a few examples. The range that trucks are requesting is much longer than what we see in passenger cars. And they want to see small targets like Euro pellets. We saw that in passenger cars as well, a 15 centimeter height target to see beyond 100 meters. This is a requirement in passenger cars. And the truck requirement is even longer than that. So this is one thing, lost cargo. And this is on top of the regular requirements to see everything at daytime and in nighttime and in harsh weather conditions, which is also in the truck market. It's a much stronger requirement that we see in passenger cars or robotaxi. Because robotaxi, if you encounter harsh weather conditions, you can always send the driver instead of the robotaxi, something you cannot do with the truck when it's out driving. And we see also the trucks, they expect higher safety levels than passenger cars because the collateral damage of a truck can be higher and greater, and the goods sometimes are very expensive. And on top of that, some trucks transfer hazardous materials that you have to take into account that it's very sensitive. So yes, we do POC with leading OEMs. They teach us a lot, and this is actually how we progress in our market and knowledge.
So in addition to the technological challenges that Ofer, you talked about, Tansu, I'd like to ask you about the more operational or logistical challenges in autonomous trucks or generally in the trucking industry nowadays. I know that a lot of companies are looking at adaptive maintenance solutions and generally novel approaches to how these fleets of very advanced trucks are being managed. How can all the different players in the field work together to provide the best solutions to their customers in this area?
Yeah, so without a doubt, autonomous vehicles will provide significant improvement potential in terms of safety and efficiency of the fleet operators. But in order to leverage that, we need to think beyond the vehicle. We need to go out of the vehicle, and we need to make sure that we have greater and seamless connectivity between the vehicle, fleet operators, service providers, and suppliers. So assuming that, let's take Fridtjof's example, so there's one hub to the other, a truck is on the way, and a breakdown happens, and there's no driver. To look around, to realize that there's a problem in the vehicle, to act, to call a service provider. What we need to do, first of all, is try to avoid these cases as much as possible with intelligent product design. If not, we are trying to predict what might happen and try to maintain the vehicle accordingly to avoid such cases. And the last case, we need to react to it as fast as possible, which means we need to get the data out of the vehicle, we need to connect it to the service provider, we need to make sure that the right part is available at the right location so that we can fix the problem as quick as possible. It all sounds quite straightforward and easy to do, but considering the complexity of the customers, complexity of the service provider network, and also different geographical situations, it is almost impossible to be able to handle this from one party. Which maybe you are also wondering why a tire guy is in this discussion about technology. So we are also one of the key players in this puzzle, supporting the safe and efficient operations through our connected service network. And since 2013, we have connected tire solutions to be able to react to these cases. And based on our experience in the field, we do see the need for more and more individualization on one hand, and at the same time, a certain degree of standardization. So we need to be able to provide the most tailored solution to the fleet, depending on the vocation or depending on the market needs. But at the same time, we need to work towards and increase the amount of standardized platforms so that all players in the ecosystem can collaborate with each other and provide the best solution and the consolidated offer to the customer. So our ultimate aim shall be to take this burden away from the customer so that they can focus on their core business, and the operations of the truck needs to be handled with this connected technologies and eventually connected ecosystems.
Right, so we're seeing all this technology flowing up from the startups, the technological companies, to the tier 2s, the tier 1s. And I was wondering, Fridtjof, what is Daimler's approach to this? How are you tackling the challenge of autonomous trucks or advanced trucking? Are you looking for a ground-up approach, or maybe retrofitting existing trucks with new technologies? How are you working with the ecosystem to get all this technology into your vehicles? Fridtjof.
Basically, the huge challenge is to remove at one point the safety driver from these trucks. And this is an incredible revolution, an incredible jump, incredible risk. And so we don't want to basically add another revolution by just designing the vehicle completely new. So basically you can expect to see the first of these autonomous trucks still having a steering wheel, however, perhaps not an entertainment systems. And yeah, one important challenge is still all this legal framework, because the requirements are not yet clear. What do we really have to fulfill that we can remove the driver from such a vehicle? And yeah, the scenarios itself, yeah, we are coming basically from the self-driving car, the robotaxi in the past, and we had last year the switch where we said truck first, and all these these technical challenges that we now face. The scenario is no longer that complex as an inner city urban area. However, as Ofer mentioned, yeah, we have to drive at bad weather, we have to drive at day and night, and which is even more difficult, we have to drive faster with brakes that don't work as well as in a passenger car. So the braking distance is much longer. And overall, yeah, safety will dictate our time frame in deployment of such automated driving systems. And we need 100%, as close as possible, reliable solution, and safety in that respect is for us a big priority. Furthermore, we need acceptance from the public and the confidence also from our customers. And as I started with, we need a legal framework for that.
As the lawyer in the room, I can comment that I know in Israel, the regulator is starting to think about a comprehensive regulation system for autonomous driving, but they're focusing more on level 4 and 5. Whereas I think, especially maybe in the truck industry, but also in other industries, we're starting to see more and more level 3 autonomous vehicles coming in. And the framework that they're thinking of, at least here in Israel, is suited more to level 4 and 5. For example, I know that they're thinking of certain human interventions that need to be recorded, or a remote command and control center Now, these are very good requirements for level 5 automation or level 4, but for level 3, you don't really need them. And maybe by implementing, they want to run fast forward into the higher levels of autonomy, whereas maybe taking baby steps, like in the truck industry, is what we should all be looking for just on the broader level. And this brings me to my next question, a little bit about the operational side of regulation. So this question is really to Tansu. We've seen there's a patchwork of regulation in the United States, in Europe, and in other places in the world. Trucks, more often than passenger vehicles, travel between countries and between jurisdictions. How are companies like Continental tackling this kind of complexity when it comes to technologies that really have to work in trucks all over the world with different kinds of regulations?
Yeah. For sure, there are several international committees, commissions like UN, European Union, that are working on these frameworks for automated and autonomous driving. And we already see first results. As an example, UN regulation now allows that a machine or vehicle is allowed to operate itself without human interaction, but with clear boundaries. And for sure, the perfect setup would be there's one framework. All regulations worldwide are standardized, covered, and there are no differences in terms of jurisdiction in different countries, cities. And I believe we are all striving for this. So manufacturers, tier 1 suppliers, we are doing our best to achieve that. However, it will be very likely that we will have different regulations in the way how to deal with automated and autonomous vehicles. There are good reasons for it, different infrastructure readiness, support from governments, targets, the speed of technology development. And we will most likely have a driver facing one regulation and moving to the adjacent country. That will definitely change. So although we strive for this homogeneous legislation, we need to live with that. Therefore, our systems and the overall infrastructure will need to adapt according to the local regulations at the moment when a vehicle crosses a city, region, or country borders. One specific example that we do in our automated driving applications in our driving strategy setting is we monitor the driver status, if the driver is awake or sleepy or sleeping, and based on that, we adjust the driving strategy. And this could then be enhanced with the geolocalization of the vehicle and reflect local regulations regarding automated and autonomous driving. So we are trying to develop technologies, but at the same time, it's also very important to inform our customers and train them. So the regulatory framework is very complex, scattered, and oftentimes not so easy to understand. That's why we are putting a lot of effort in creating transparency on this. So to train our fleet operators, our customers, provide consultancy to them, not only about autonomous driving, but also other areas. And we were also initiating an industry-wide platform to discuss this topic openly. So 2025ad.com, if you can go there, you will see a lot of content, and we would like to openly exchange on this topic with different industry players to find the best solutions to tackle this complexity. And I'm sure that this challenge will be on the table for the next months and years to come.
Thank you. When people talk to me about different regulations in different jurisdictions, I always think, what would Israeli autonomous driving mode be? And then I try not to think of it because it will be crazy. I don't know how we'll adapt to it here. But anyway, back to you, Ofer, talking about adaptivity. Like you said at the beginning, autonomous trucks have to be much more adaptive to road conditions, to weather conditions than passenger vehicles. And just, like you said, to justify their economics, they have to run 24/7 in all kinds of weather and all kinds of conditions. What technologies, obviously your technology of imaging sensors, what other technologies do you see prominent in this field that can get us there?
So as you said, it's not going to be a single sensor. It's going to be what we like to call in the industry a sensor suite. And the most probable candidates for the technologies that will enter into this suite today is vision sensors. I will address it in a minute. Radars, definitely radars are going to be there. LIDARs, depending on the OEM, but I assume that LIDARs will be in some percentage in some cars. and also sensors for harsh weather conditions. Now let's see what each one is good at. Vision sensors actually are similar to the driver eyes, and take into account that today you're doing 99.9% of the driving with your eyes. Today a truck is driving from one point to another point only using vision. So probably vision is the dominant sensor in this sensor suite. A radar is excellent in harsh weather conditions to detect other road users and so forth. LIDAR will detect obstacles in some with some constraints. I would say also that, as I said, night vision will be there. For what I'm trying to say is the human brain has a lot of capabilities, and therefore the vision sensor is very strong because we use a lot of our brain power to process the images. Unfortunately, the human brain, the automotive brain is not where the human brain is right now. We still have a big gap in between, so you cannot trust only vision. You will have to have those radars and other sensors in parallel. Also for redundancy, a truck, as Dr. Stein said, needs some 100% certainty that the car is driving. So you have to run it through real-world tests and really prove that it works 24/7, nighttime, hard weather conditions. And I will point the listeners also to a paper that was published by Daimler. The link will appear later on in the summary of this panel. So don't worry, I don't want to take any time here, but it's important to test the sensors, all of them in real-world scenarios. And I said Daimler did some tests and published a paper about it.
Good, thank you. We're approaching the end of our session. I'd like to finish off with one identical question to all three of you. And that is, as again we said at the beginning, it's no secret that the industry, the auto tech industry, focuses on solutions for passenger vehicles. And what would whereas it may be the right thing to do to focus on trucks and other cargo solutions, what would your recommendation to be, or your advice would be to startups in Israel and around the world? Would you recommend them to start focusing on trucks, or to move their focus to trucks, to start off with trucks as a way to get to the more advanced passenger vehicles? What would your take be on that? Let's start with you, Ofer.
So I would definitely recommend startups to focus. It's very tempting to offer your technology to several markets, to many customers, but you have to take into account that you have limited resources, and that's why I recommend startups to focus. Looking at trucks, if you are already in the automotive industry, I would look at trucks as a very important step towards passenger cars. Unfortunately, trucks are not sold in the same quantity that cars are sold. So your offering will be lower if you focus only on trucks. But as I said, trucks is a very important. The ratio is about 1 to 50, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Stein will correct me later. So in order not to reduce the value of your company, focus on automotive, take the trucks as an important step in the development of your company. And keep your startup all the time focused on what you do best. This is my best recommendation. Don't go to fields that look a little bit more tempting.
Thank you. Tansu, your take on this?
Yeah. It is very straightforward from our perspective. If we go a little bit beyond the truck itself, commercial vehicles and the ecosystem around it offer a more viable and immediate business. Especially also the tendency of increasing fleet sizes and more specialization on certain vocations, it offers more opportunities. In the passenger vehicle industry, where for sure the number of vehicles is quite high, but such fleets, professional operators are still just emerging. This is why many of these ecosystem solutions, fleet management topics, first come in commercial vehicles, and then it will be transferred to passenger vehicles. Very different to most PES car owners. For commercial vehicle owners and operators, vehicle is an operational asset, an essential element for their day-to-day business. Accordingly, productivity, efficiency, safety, compliance with regulations, convenience are key drivers for their business. Thus, their interest in technologies and solutions which can improve performance in these areas is extremely high. And adoption of connected solutions is also very high, which provides a very robust basis to start with. I can recommend startups not to focus only on the vehicle manufacturers, so sorry, Fridtjof, but there are also sellers, owners, operators, drivers, suppliers, service providers in the ecosystem, and we all need advanced technological solutions in multiple domains, from connectivity to image recognition, from sensorics to artificial intelligence. And we are, as Continental, very much looking forward to collaborate with various players in this ecosystem in order to provide a better solution for the customers.
Fridtjof, your advice to startups?
All right. We as a company, other companies might be different. We will jump the level 3, so we will go immediately to level 4, what you mentioned earlier. And this removal of the safety driver, as I mentioned before, has a lot of new requirements included. Driving faster and so on, bad weather, Ofer mentioned it. So what do we really need? We need long-ranging sensors, since we have to drive fast. We don't want to be an obstacle on a interstate freeway. We might even get a ticket for that. Furthermore, Ofer already mentioned all these sensors. We have to orchestrate these more than 10 sensors. We have to synchronize them. We have to calibrate them. These are topics which are not trivial and where I see great opportunities for startups with a background in photogrammetry or whatever. Furthermore, we have non-rigid bodies suddenly. There's a truck, there's a tractor and a trailer, and they kind of move against each other. There's a cabin which is flexible. So you have real online kind of sensing challenges which are not yet all solved in a good way. Furthermore, the trailer behind us compared to the self-driving car is like a blind spot. Yeah, so part of the world we cannot see because trailers are just interchanged. You cannot always add a lot of sensors to it. And then when you remove the driver, drivers have a lot of secondary tasks. Safety, security for the data and the freight. This is all something that is easily forgotten when you just think of the steering wheel and braking and accelerating. So I personally believe in the business case. We need help from startups. The whole thing is a marathon, not a sprint. And we plan the deployment of highly automated trucks over the next decade. And we already are working together with a couple of Israeli startups. And yeah, we would like to have more of these brilliant minds in our project. So let me finish with safety will dictate our time frame and the deployment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I'm sure our listeners and viewers can take away a lot from the session. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and hopefully we will see you very soon in Israel in the flesh. I'd like to thank the EcoMotion team for hosting us, Oli and Noga and Neta and the rest of the EcoMotion team out there. And like I said, hope to see you very soon here in Israel.